afternoon, colleagues. Good afternoon, colleagues. Lovely for you to join us today for our new 2025 sequence of What's New in AT, What's New in Assistive Technologies. It's a webinar series designed to bring to you some of the exciting and transformational assistive technologies that are coming on the market, or as you might already be using, developments of things that have been before. For this particular webinar, I'm absolutely delighted to welcome Tim Wilson, who has produced quite an exceptional idea. I'm not going to say any more than that because I think I will hand over to Tim straight away. Now, for these webinars, ladies and gentlemen, because it's a webinar, it's unlikely that we'll be able to let you speak a question. However, we have a very sophisticated tool through the Q&A function built in to this webinar. So if you have a question or query, please put it in the Q&A or use the chat function. We'll be using the chat function quite a lot. And also, ladies and gentlemen, please don't hesitate to use that chat function too, if you like, if you've got a point to make. We usually only have 5 or 6 people on these calls. We've already got 16, 17, and the numbers are going up. This is wonderful. So look, without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Tim. Welcome, Tim. We'd love you to give a presentation on tempo reading. Thank you.
Thank you, Marius. Thank you for that very friendly introduction, and happy to meet everybody on the call, etc. I'll switch to screen sharing now. Is that the right thing to do?
Yeah. Please do.
Here we go. Let's go to my keynote. Let me just go back to the beginning and hopefully everybody can see a full screen.
Perfect, sir. Perfect.
Okay, so a little bit. I'm Tim Wilson. I'm the CEO and innovator of Tempo Reading. Tempo Reading is the first eye tracking and AI reading tutor. It doesn't require any third-party hardware. It works off a tablet, iPad at the moment, and Chromebook is coming in the next 3 or 4 weeks, but we'll go into that in a little bit more detail. The purpose of this app is to fix fundamental foundational issues that are really a systemic crisis globally, which is attention span, reading endurance, SEND learning, and also to reduce teacher workload. Okay, we are a UK Research and Innovation Grant awardee. That reflects our deep science. Well, again, we'll go into that a little bit more in the presentation. And Marius, Michael at Microlink have been very generous in their support for us and are now an established partner of the technology. So the first slide we'll come to, and what we're working, right, is we do have a global crisis in education. Yeah, attention spans are declining. We all know the reason why. That is the last 15 years, 20 years of digital activity, phones, social media, Reels, Instagram, etc. I think we can all admit that we're guilty of falling into those traps. But for children today, this is having quite a negative impact. As you're probably aware, there are numerous studies on US universities dumbing down first-year texts because the students are struggling to cope due to their attention span and reading endurance. Second one is one that pertains to directly every day, every minute of the day, is the teacher workload and the crisis we have in the profession in the UK that's reflected globally. We have falling home read levels. Parents aren't reading with their children as much as they used to. Neurodiverse learning. We've seen the government already talk about empowering the neurodiverse community to contribute more to the economy, putting them on a level playing field. And also we've got the after effect of the pandemic, which really we're talking at least another decade of impact on education globally. So all these issues are very strategic in their problem, they're global in their problem, but there's also a personal element to me as well in terms of my passion for learning, and we'll come on to the history of that in a little bit. But they're the problems we want to solve, they're the problems we do solve, and a number of these problems we solve in the moment. the technology will impact you as soon as you use it within the first couple of minutes. So let's go to the first slide. How are we going to do this? How are we going to revolutionize learning with tempo reading? So a little bit of my history here on this slide. I sort of managed to get myself through the UK education system. I secured a law degree at Leeds Metropolitan University a number of years ago. But I had a very strong passion for music and guitar playing from a very, very young age. And I ended up going to music school in America after my law degree. I worked for a year, instead of taking the typical student travel abroad thing, I went to this music school. But it was at that music school that I was taught how to learn. And it was an epiphany, it was a revelation. And it was already what I was doing as a guitar player, what I'd done as I played tennis as a child as well, which is metacognition, which is you can't master the disciplines of music, sport, or chess without thinking and focusing and working slowly in your learning methodology. I was already doing that, but being made self-aware of it had a huge impact on me. So my goal has always been, how do we take those learning methodologies and apply them to reading and learning? Okay. When you're using metacognition, you're expanding the working memory because you're slowing down. Okay. You're reducing distraction, you're hyper focused. So that is one of the fundamental core elements of this. And obviously we've been using these methods for centuries to succeed. Yeah. From Beethoven to Jimi Hendrix, it doesn't matter, to Magnus Carlsen today, to Roger Federer on the tennis court, Serena Williams. They all have used these methods to learn, excel in their chosen fields. So let's look at the first three aspects of the tech, and I'll play a little short video that will show you that actually working. So the first thing, how do we reduce teacher workload? We're actually going to use the camera on the tablet. Okay. It doesn't it doesn't record or store any facial data of the child. All it's doing is tracking their eye position, their eye fixation point, and their head position. And basically we do that so that we can tell if they're actually reading. Okay, we can tell if they're focused, and if they're unfocused, we can prompt them to focus. So they follow the words. If they look up at the ceiling for 5 seconds, we prompt them to focus. If they stare blankly at the screen for 5 seconds, we prompt them to focus. So the days of the child pretending to read are over. It cannot happen. Okay, with this, we catch them out. They have to be focused. They have to be following the text. Now, the second element is, how do we solve this problem with attention span and reading endurance? What we do is we adopt a text reveal process. So the text reveals word by word and line by line. Okay, they cannot skim read. It is impossible to skim read on tempo reading. And we set the tempo of the reveal to speeds that correlate to low beta waves, or you're most focused to learn. We'll touch on that in the science section, but this is really to help the child access their flow state. Okay, flow states, we all have them. Again, we'll touch on the science section. It's not just Roger Federer or Serena Williams or great sports musicians, whatever. We all actually have a flow state. And probably a lot of you have experienced it either in work or when you play music, where all distraction just disappears and you're hyper-focused. So that's the place we want to put the student in as they're learning, simply because that will increase their working memory, that will increase their knowledge retention, accelerate their learning. And also to make them self-aware that they have a flow state, okay? And that what is inside their head is the most powerful supercomputer in the galaxy as far as we know, yeah? ChatGPT is not even close. So that's what we want to do here, improve focus, improve attention span, improve working memory, etc. How do we help the neurodiverse? Very simply, the text reveal. This is a byproduct of our piloting last year. This came to our attention. We had a lot of neurodiverse children raise their hand, say this is really easy to read, this is really helpful, the school must adopt the technology. Simply by revealing the text and putting the child into this slower reading speed, we're already hyper-focusing them and reducing some anxiety. But by revealing the text line by line, word by word, we're reducing one of their key issues, which is word and line jumbling. Okay, so that is helping mitigate those issues they have. Those issues stem from the fact that in most cases, their own eye muscles are a little weaker than non-neurodiverse students, and that causes the variance in tracking issues. It causes their saccade to be exaggerated as well, where they retract the word. That creates anxiety, that creates frustration, that reduces working memory and puts them in a negative feedback loop. We solve that issue to a large extent. Okay, so it's proven extremely successful with neurodiverse students. I'm just going to play a short video. This will show you the tech in action, so to speak. Okay, here we go. My screen moving across. There we go. You can see how the text reveals. It's a very flowing experience. And literally within a few lines, it will just lock students in. They do not want any distraction. And as you can see on this slide here, we're talking about how it reduces the anxiety and complexity. The lines are grayed out above. Reduce those, so it's going to be quick. And also the text reveal can be set manually as well. Okay. Let me just roll that back a second. Sorry. I was just going to move that quick. Let me just go back to this slide here. Here we are. So you can see here the lines above are grayed. The neurodiverse child is only focused on the words that are prominent and there's no text below. So that is proving very, very useful in mitigating that word and line jumbling for the neurodiverse children. Okay, it's had a huge effect in our pilot trials. As I move forward, okay, the slider, which is at the bottom of the screen, allows them to change the tempo. This is actually being changed to 50 to 150 words per minute at the moment. Just on this point, I'll touch on it now. If you're doing a TED Talk, you should be speaking around 130, 140 words per minute to allow people to consume the information and connect that to pre-existing knowledge. If you're reading a highly technical document, a Virgin Atlantic engineer getting an update from Boeing, for example, which would be pretty serious, you should be reading that around 80 to 90 words per minute. We're most likely seeing kids skim read at 200, 250, up to 300 words per minute. That is the enemy of knowledge retention, especially if it is new information. Okay, I'll let the video play. Here we go. You can change the background colors as well. So we've got friendly features there. And the eye tracking, as you see here, will detect the child looking away. That comes as a friendly prompt. Okay, so they cannot not be focused. Okay. There we go. And you can tap on a word as well if there's any difficulty from the child. They want to hear a phonetic spelling. That's something that helps them as well in terms of that area, especially for English as a second language students. Let's just go back to the slide deck. There we go. So we have inclusive technology, dyslexia supported backgrounds and fonts. We have a UK curriculum and a SEM version with plus over 400 stories. We'll come on to that a little more detail a bit later. And just to touch on this speed aspect, what we're trying to do is help the child enter their flow state, but also find their optimum reading speed, okay, using the slider that you saw. That is a very intuitive process. And also speed does not relate to intelligence. My actual reading speed is 110 words per minute. My daughter's, who's 13, is 130. At both speeds, we're very locked in, we're hyper-focused, we're entering that flow state learning aspect. The AI analysis, this generates reports for each read and also generates reports for the teacher of the whole class. Okay, so if you look at what we've shown so far, the teacher can monitor a whole classroom of children reading in real time. Okay, not one child can escape not reading or being focused. So those days are over, and you've got the security of knowing that while the child is learning, they are hyper focused. Okay, so they're in the optimum space to absorb knowledge and retain that knowledge as well. I'll come on to the next video. Let me slide. Here we go. This will show you a little bit more about the reporting aspect. After each read page, there is a questions. And after each full read is completed, you get a report as well. Okay. There's also practice pages for the children, which we consider as flashcards in terms of revising stories they've read or information they've read. So they can go back to this once they've finished a story or a piece of curriculum and want to relearn it and just look at the questions. So you've got a lot of supportive tools here as well behind the core element. So let's go. So in terms of people we've been working with the education space through a partner with the New Partnership working in London. They helped us set up our pilots last year. very respected organization. Obviously, we're now working with Microlink, who are sort of the UK's leaders in assisted technology, and our partnership there. And one of our recent use cases is listed here. This is Nick Mochan from the Deputy Head Teacher at Banff Academy, Aberdeenshire. This pilot was extremely successful, as all our pilots have been. I'll go into a little more detail now. Next slide. Okay, so Banff has quite a high quotient of children who need supportive measures, 60%, and the UK national average is 18. So this is quite a challenging environment for the teachers and also for us to deploy the technology. We tested with 70 children over 3 days, very intensive sessions, 12 to 17 years old. And the results are just, incredible, really. So, 92.7% for tempo reading books, 97% reported improved focus, 100% of students with ADHD and dyslexia experience and challenge focus, 100% said they'd choose tempo over conventional methods for exam preparation. These results reflect our extensive pilots we ran last year with education space in our own cohort as well. Just to iterate, the impact of tempo is immediate in the classroom. It's immediate. This is not something where you're looking, going, well, okay, we'll see what happens in a month or two. You are immediately putting children into flow state. You're immediately focusing them. And that has cognitive immediate benefits in the sense that you're strengthening the neurons in the cerebellum. Yeah. Long-term goals. Also, what we found, which is a little more anecdotal, but this seems to be bringing true, is that when they go then to read a book, they are definitely more focused. Okay, so long-term use of tempo will definitely impact in a positive manner their reading of books outside of using tempo as well. Let's go to the next slide. Other feedback. This feedback, a lot of this is, as I mentioned, via the education space, pilots across schools in London and also through our own cohort. So it's took on multiple shapes and forms. From a school perspective, we've done pilots with literally 100 children in an hour to test the resilience of the technology, its deployment, how easy the teachers can use it, to extensive tests where we're just testing a child for 2 hours on their own. Okay, so it's gone through a lot of qualitative testing. Interesting feedback. I mean, I like this from one teacher: tempo is a tutor every parent can afford. It's not designed to replace teachers. It's designed to empower teachers. It's designed to empower the resource in the classroom. That's the way we look at it as well. Okay, so we go across to the next slide. So a little bit about the science. We touched on it already. So metacognition, as we mentioned before, this is centuries old. Disciplines, music, sport, and chess. To learn these to a high skill level, you must be thinking about what you're thinking. You must be hyper focused. You can't skim learn your way to serve like Roger Federer or play guitar like Jimi Hendrix. It just doesn't happen. Yeah. So this is really one of the key fundamentals, if not the fundamental, of tempo reading, to bring that sort of disciplined, hyper focused studying to all children and make them self-aware that they are capable of doing this with a little bit of help from tempo reading. We can lock them into that zone. We can lock them into their flow state. Okay, so a lot of established science around this we feel we are the antidote to the TikTok reels, the Instagram reels, the digital chaos. And these are fundamentals that we have to correct. We can stick all the generative AI and gamification in education and present that to children, but unless we fix these fundamentals that are becoming a systemic global crisis, it's going to be in vain. And we are focused on those core issues as a platform. That's obviously going to have major impact, immediate in the class and long-term impact on learning skills for all of those children who use tempo. I'll come on to the next bit, which is the optimum reading speed. So this is very much flow state science. I had a theory for a long time, and I think it's pretty obvious that the geniuses we talk about, I'm a tennis player, so I love Roger Federer. He's in the zone at Wimbledon. Jimi Hendrix is my favorite guitar player, Magnus Carlsen, chess player, etc., etc. It's obvious that these people learn in the zone as well. Okay, they were accessing their flow state, they were accessing their optimum knowledge state while they were learning as well as when they perform. My goal is to help every child on the planet be able to access their flow state. Okay. Now, last year, Cambridge University Mind Lab proved that we all have a neural pulse and a frequency our brain operates at. And the frequencies in low beta wave territory are where you are most focused. And if you can get yourself locked in around that pulse area, it will heighten your attention span significantly. And that's what we do with the speed. These speeds are set with our algorithm to correspond to low beta wave speeds. So what we've got here is a combination of centuries-old learning methods, metacognition, with this frontier neurocognitive entrainment science, okay, which is about neural pulses and low beta waves. That's why the UK government has granted the project a UK Innovation Research Grant, because we are on frontier science here in the data we're collecting, etc. So a combination of two things, and it has, as I said to you before, I'll repeat myself again, it has immediate effect. You'll see the impact within a couple of minutes with the children. Yeah, they'll be locked in terms of focus. Let's go again. So we see the future as flow state learning. Okay, we can stay where we are, which for the neurodiverse is word-line jumbling. For kids who are not neurodiverse, it's skim reading. Both create anxiety in the brain, frustration or lack of focus. In both cases, the working memory decreases and you have degraded learning. That's how we've learned forever, unless we're a genius. Yeah, they somehow fall in this flow state. We're providing a solution that's extremely intuitive that allows every child to access that flow state. So we're reducing anxiety, we're heightening focus, we're putting in flow state learning. That's increased confidence, that's increased working memory, that's increased learning. Okay, so that is where we're at. That's our modus operandi for the platform. So we're addressing every issue in UK education and globally. Can we increase attention span and address attention span decline and reading endurance? Yes. The text reveal guides users into their flow state. It prevents skim reading and it enhances focus. Support for neurodiverse students of all ages. As we've seen, the results we're getting are absolutely phenomenal. It's reducing that word and line jumbling. It's reducing the anxiety. It's increasing their working memory. How do we increase classroom efficiency and reduce teacher workload? We can monitor performance. We can support the readers in the classroom without requiring intensive teacher resource. And home reading levels, well, lots of kids don't like reading with their parents. Maybe their parents' English is a second language. Tempo takes over that job. Okay, whether we've got lazy parents who don't want to read with the kid, etc. Tempo is there to do that support and to make sure that that educational hole is filled. Okay, I'll come on to the next slide. We have an inclusive curriculum. Okay, this is ages 8 to 16. My co-CEO, Natalie, unfortunately couldn't make the call. She's got this nasty bug that is going around and is not very well at all. So I apologize for that. Natalie is the educator in the project, 12 years frontline primary school education. We've built the curriculum to mirror BBC bite-size approach. So you have a page, a question, page, a question, page, a question. Normally, and then at the end, there's a bunch of questions. So it's very chunked, very much fits with the metacognitive approach of taking some information in, testing yourself, taking the information and testing yourself. And it also has a full SEN curriculum. And we also have over 400 associated stories as well. So it's not just curriculum content, full support. And as I mentioned, a full SEN curriculum as well for each year group. That's okay. So we're fully covered on that aspect. And then the classroom application. So whole class reading, you can just have the whole class reading any topic together. All curriculum topics are covered. You can monitor that in real time, see the performance of each student. As we've mentioned, neurodiverse reading makes reading accessible and enjoyable. And daily reading intervention, it doesn't require a teacher-tutor intervention. Tempo can take that role over for you in the class. And while this is all happening, we're improving attention spans and reading endurance, and we're helping them access and understand their flow state. Thank you, Marcus. Maris, that's pretty much where we're at.
That's superb. Thank you so much for that, Tim. So if you could stop sharing now,
yes, sure.
I'll just go to some of the questions that have come up.
Of course.
And observations really. First of all, the impact across the ability range. So we're not just talking about SEND learners. We're not just talking about learners who might find reading a struggle. We're talking about unlocking the ability of some of the most able students as well. Correct?
Correct. Yes, this is going to impact all. I mean, In our local cohort, we have some what I'd call pretty smart kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're using Tempo for classes they're not 100% sure on, classes they missed, extra revision as a revision aid locally. Yeah. They're definitely grade A students and they see a use case with it. And that's their ages are 12 to 15 in that small cohort that are testing at the moment. So yeah, it's got application everywhere. As I
That
said,
that that
we want to
that's really exciting. Yeah.
make the child self-aware that they have a flow state and they can access it.
Yeah.
And that has to be a benefit to any child. Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. Ollie asks, can you add your own text?
That is coming and it will be available by the time you guys pilot. So that'll be the next 3 or 4 weeks. Yes.
Wow. That's really good. I can
Yeah.
see you built up your bank, and obviously you had to have a practice, if you
Yeah.
like, a practice bank to work on the
Yeah.
technology from.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Great. Um, I'd like you to just say a bit more about this whole thing about countering the TikTok culture, because I'm reading an absolutely fascinating book at the moment, can't find it, called The Anxiety Generation, and how
Yeah.
this how young people have migrated into, if you like, the ungoverned space of the internet. So that's one aspect of it, but the other aspect of it, of course, is this loss of an ability to concentrate for more than one sentence and focus for less than 30 seconds.
Yes. I
So
mean,
yeah, please.
so, I mean, not to get into geopolitics, yeah, there is a reason why the Chinese don't allow their children to use TikTok. They're fully aware of the impact it has on attention span, reading endurance, etc. They fully know that. And what has happened essentially, and look, I'm as guilty as anybody. I can sit on Instagram Reels for 20 minutes at night and go, what am I doing? Yeah, I can be sucked in. I think I'm a pretty smart guy. It's what it's resulting in is a dopamine addiction. So to be focused, you need to be entertained. Well,
Yes.
there's no entertainment learning coastal erosion. Yeah, and even I remember that from my school days as being a pretty tough subject to keep focused on. Right? So, I mean, there is no dopamine hit for very difficult subjects. So, you're rewiring the brain, yeah, to struggle to focus unless it's being entertained. Well, that isn't reality. That isn't life. Yeah. And we just came back from the Bet Show in London where we had a rapturous reception. And there was other areas that I know are going to be relevant to everyone on this call. You look at things like generative AI and stuff, there's a very extreme danger that's going to impact critical thinking. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, I'm
Yes.
lazy.
Yes.
I sort of know what the methods are, but I'll be able to scuff around this because the AI will help. That is not progressive for us in terms of our IQ and our cognitive abilities. We are the antidote to that. We are. I'm part of a movement that is looking not just at not AI being the next lead, but it's actually our neurocognitive entrainment of the brain.
Yes.
That is coming. This technology is on the first wave of what we're doing here and will grow and get considerably more powerful. We have so much capacity, as we well know, from the likes of Leonardo da Vinci and Beethoven to modern day geniuses yet. That is what we can do. And if we can help children in the UK and globally up their attention spans 5, 10, 15%, that's going to have global significance.
Oh,
Yeah.
couldn't agree more.
Sorry for the evangelism. Sorry.
Just
So
no. I did neurosciences before I went into teaching.
well, you probably know more than me. Yes.
No, but you're speaking my language.
Thank you.
I have to say, studying mice and rats was the best preparation for headship I could possibly have imagined. But that's another story. And just on this whole thing about the internet, it's incredible to link the correlation between teenage anxiety levels and mental health issues
Yes.
with the invention of the like and share button in 2009.
Exactly. There's actually a really good podcaster called Prof G from New York. He's actually based in London now, New York professor, and he's got some really great interviews and also a lot of blog posts and content on the increase in anxiety, depression amongst teenagers, and the advent of social media. I mean, it's startling. It's
Yeah,
absolutely startling, really, and
no,
it's
it
quite sad.
really is.
It
Yeah.
is. Yeah, it is quite sad.
And I've got an observation here. As some people say, oh, some people are auditory learners, some people are visual learners, some people are touchy-feely learners. And okay, if we put that aside, what's nice about about a Tempo reader is that you are engaging with what some would describe as visual learners. They
Yes,
they
because
are
yeah,
they are control you are helping them to develop the visual side of their learning. I think I think that's really exciting.
yeah,
Really
yeah. I mean,
exciting.
it's. I think it's interesting that I was given some instructions by somebody yesterday over the phone on WhatsApp, and I had to say, "Can you just text me because it won't register." Yeah, and I'm a pretty smart guy, but I'm not good with not as good at auditory as I'm with visual. Yeah,
Yes.
so I think it's. I mean, not to sound like we're going to put the entire world into some like learning trance or hypnosis, yeah, but we've got to do something to stop this systemic crisis, yeah. And it's not to sound too like too dramaed up, but it's as important as climate change. If you're dumbing down society, that is not a smart move. It's not smart, and the consequences of that are going to be catastrophic as we go down the line, you know.
Yeah.
So
Totally. Totally. We have to sort of look at empowering things. I'll just break for a minute.
sure.
We are going to talk about a pilot program in a
Yes.
moment. But my colleague Michael Buckfield is on the call. Michael, could you put your email address in the chat function, please? If anyone's interested in taking this further, my colleague Michael will take this further with you. So Michael's going to type his email address into the chat pane in a moment. That will be absolutely brilliant. So we'll talk about
Yeah,
that in a
will
minute.
do. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you,
Um,
Michael.
so the next point that I've made here is there an opportunity, or do you see any possibility of combining tempo reading, perhaps with some text to speech capacity? Has
I
that
mean,
ever thought? Have you thought about that? What's your thoughts on that? Just
we have a tap a word function. Yeah. So if there's a difficult word, they can get a phonetic spelling. That
okay.
is that is right. There's a number of considerations. A classroom, 30 children, and this all kicking off at random speeds could be like a cacophony of crickets all out of sync and everything. So that's an aspect. But we are looking at other supportive audio elements as we move forward. Yes, that is
Yeah.
that is definitely inbound over the next 3 to 6 months of the technology.
I completely get the
Yeah.
classroom use of this tool. That's really important. If a class has got 20 minutes of reading time, as many schools do, either at tutor period or in primary schools as part of a focused literacy session, then to have that silence, have the children reading, and having the teacher getting second by second feedback on engagement, uh, I think is quite an extraordinary possibility. So
But
thank
I
you.
think just to touch on that for a second, I mean, I think what's to emphasize here is that I'm sure a lot of these people is calling yourself, you're a musician like me, yeah, you're
Yes.
ex-musician. We know what flow states are. Flow states are where all distraction has disappeared. Now, that is actually a very happy place for the brain. Yeah, it's a very comforting, focused, enjoyable place for the brain to be in. And to make children aware that they can access that, make them self-aware of it, I think is a very, very powerful addition, yeah, to their knowledge. Not just even using templates, like this is how you can feel, this is how focused you can feel, lowers the stress levels while they're learning, lowers the anxiety. So um, I think that, I mean, as you well know, as a guitar player, right? You play your guitar and you can have people crashing pans and screaming, shouting, and you don't hear a thing. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
just focused.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
you have to put children into that zone, I think is very it's a game changer. Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's such a shame actually because so many young people have absolutely no idea or experience of that moment,
Yes.
that flow state moment,
Yes.
except of course game players who
Gameplays. Yeah.
who are in that environment and they are totally immersed. They are totally in their flow state,
Yes.
and um, now, some people really object to online gaming and that kind of thing. My school back in 2005 was one of the first schools working with one of the neurolabs in England to actually put games into the classroom.
Yeah.
We tried I think it was Roller Coaster Tycoon, Civilization Builder, and a couple of those first ones. And it was interesting to see how the children who engaged got into that kind of flow state on the game.
Yeah, I
But
mean
then you
that would
pulled
be
them
a
out of it. Then you pulled them out of it and said,
yeah.
right, what do you think? What let's put the
Well, it's
learning.
that's an interesting flow state because that's more of a gamma wave focused state than low beta.
Oh,
So if
explain.
hyper focus, that would be like if you were boxing or you're flying a fighter jet, yeah. You'd be hyper focused, but it's in a real-time mathematics process and performance. Whereas what we're doing is we're putting the child into flow state to absorb knowledge. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's slightly different, but they're both related. Yeah, they are related.
Yes.
So it's, I mean, again, this is why we've got the UK Research Innovation Grant to study these aspects.
Yes.
But I think it should be comforting for a game player to, once they go into their flow state on reading, it should feel analogous to what they do maybe as a gamer as well and feel
Right.
comforting to them. So again, this is all frontier stuff. So, but
Amazing.
thank you.
No. A final point from me, and this is about learners, this whole thing about neurodiverse learners. Now, I'm passionate that we need to demedicalize neurodiversity and neurodivergence. Why? It might seem counterproductive, but if we are diagnosing more people who have, if you like, neurodiversity, have certain strengths, certain needs, we are going to continue to oversaturate and kill our send provision. It's just going to be too much. What tools like this do is that they push the boundaries of neurodiversity. In other words, more children can be included in
Exactly.
a mainstream classroom provision than hitherto. What that will do, it'll mean the meager resources that we have to support the children with the most need can be spent most effectively. Um,
Sure.
I really feel that's one of the real gains and one of those unseen positives of work that you're doing.
I think, I mean, look, it's very simple. All my heroes are neurodiverse. When I was a kid, it was John McEnroe and Jimi Hendrix, right? They're not normal cookie cutter people. The greatest inventions, the greatest creations don't come from cookie cutter people. And the more of these children we can get to feel confident in the class, feel that they can excel, that's going to be better for society. And even just on a baseline, government growth, GDP, a bigger contribution. So I think it's potentially huge. Yeah, it means neurocognitive entrainment for neurodiverse children. I think it's going to be massive. It's definitely, as you said, non-medical intervention. The basically the solutions within. Yeah, and we're allowing the child to access that solution within themselves. So
Well, look, it's been an absolutely super fascinating for me. As again, not only the fact that you're a guitarist and you live about 20 miles away from me, and I think I feel a jam's coming on, but also the
definitely,
fact that the neuroscience underneath this is compelling from
thank
my
you.
perspective. It's compelling. So we have at Microlink, we are teaming up with Tempo Read. As you know, Microlink doesn't make anything, but what we do is bring what we think are stunning and transformative products to the marketplace and network it with schools and individuals who need it most. If you are interested in following up an offer of joining a pilot, if you look in the chat pane, we have the email addresses there of Michael and Hamdi. Michael Buckfield and Hamdi Hussein, who are part of our R&D department, they will reach out to you and help. That's one thing.
Just on that point, Maris, with the pilot, just to emphasize, pilots can be set up very quickly, very little time sink from the school. They can be as small as big as you want them to be, and there's no obligation yet. So it's going to be a very quick process for you to start up and get going.
Oh, that's marvelous, Tim. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for that. That's really fantastic. Um, Neurodiversity Week, Neurodiversity Celebration Week is coming up in March. I think it starts on the 17th of March. I've been asked to chair part of Lexic's, if you like, celebration of this week, where they run something like 100 webinars over the course of that week. I am going to be chairing a session called, um, if you like, the inclusive classroom of the future today. and I'm delighted to have Tim as one of my panelists. So
Thank you.
we're going to explore and get the newest ideas around a neuro-inclusive classroom, and also challenge your thinking a bit with some models about just what do we mean by inclusion and access to learning. And Tim, I'm just delighted you can join me for that one. That
Thank
should be
you.
good.
Of course. Yeah,
Uh,
very grateful for the invite. Thank you.
and we will circulate the details of that, everybody. We don't like spamming people. We hate spamming people, but we will send out details with that a bit nearer the time. Tim, thank you so much. It's been
Thank you. It's been
a
a pleasure.
wonderful
Thank you.
opportunity.
Thank you to everybody for listening. Thank you so much.
And thank you everyone for staying on the call. We've had great attendance and great flow state, I think,
Hopefully.
from the people on the call, which is lovely. Now, don't be alarmed when we stop this recording, stop the webinar. Everyone will be booted out. So, just my thanks to everyone who has contributed. Thank you for your questions, your observations. The conversation begins today. So, if you do wish to continue discussions, please get in touch with Michael. Please get in touch with Hamdi. Their email addresses are in the chat pane. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, Maris. Thank
Brilliant.
you.
And
Thank
thank
you.
you, Azadeh. I think you can close us down now. Thank you.